thank you for being with us once again on the program. It's quite a significant moment in Vatican history, isn't it? As Pope Francis will preside over Thursday's funeral, it's going to be the first time a pope will be buried by his successor.
Yes, it's quite unique. It's never happened before. But I'm not surprised that there are very many people coming because he was a very bright mind, of course, but also a very approachable person, very kind, very tender. I just heard from a friend of mine who told me that when he met him for a coffee with a friend and then was left on his own, Pope Benedict, he wasn't Pope then, but he was a cardinal, was the first person he felt ready to open himself up about the fact that he'd been abused. And he told him everything. And the future Pope listened to him very kindly and gave him some advice and said he would pray for him. And he felt really accompanied. So, and I think he has done that with many, many people. He's very approachable. He was very approachable. Of course, he was an extremely clever man. I think to use a current analogy, he was the Pele of theology in the world.
Hmm.
He tackled many subjects. He wasn't afraid of any new ideas or of dialogue. One of the main themes of his thinking was faith and reason.
Hmm.
It is reasonable to believe. It is reasonable to believe in God. And it was interesting yesterday when the spiritual testament of Pope Benedict was released by the Vatican, that in it he thanks many people, his parents, his brother and sister, and friends and pupils, and so on. And then he says that over his life, he has sometimes been struck by some ideas that seem to deny that the faith was reasonable.
Hmm.
And then after a while, these ideas broke down and were seen to be false. And
Right.
so throughout his life, he has seen, faith is very reasonable, faith in God.
Right.
And
You shared a quite intimate story that your friend has experienced with the late Pope. Do you think the scandals during his time as pontiff has somewhat overshadowed the conversations about the legacy that he's left behind?
well, that's very interesting because Pope Benedict was really the first one to push back against this crisis. He, even before becoming Pope, he would spend Friday reading the cases and getting John Paul II to start putting in place strict rules against sexual abuse. When he became Pope, that became much more of a thing for him. And he took out from the priesthood a number of high profile people who had been discovered to be abusers. So he took a very strong stance against this and set up rules and criteria that were then strengthened and followed up by Pope Francis. But the reform of the church's approach to sexual abuse of children
Hmm.
was started by Benedict. So once the story is studied in detail, he will be remembered as the one who started it, who started the fight back.
Do you think those reforms that he implemented back in the day are being felt in the Catholic Church today?
Well, uh, yes, the reforms have had some impact, but it's work in progress. Of course, it's not complete. We have in this meantime also discovered this problem to be a problem throughout society, a much bigger problem. It appeared in the Catholic Church, which is extremely sad. And Pope Benedict was somebody who wanted to get rid of it. No more abuse, uh, perpetrators to be punished, victims to be recompensed. But um, it's work in progress. We
Hmm.
perhaps have created an environment which is safe, but we still have to learn how to deal with victims better. But I always look back at Pope Benedict as the person who started the fight back. And even though his papacy, we did hear a lot about the scandals of the
Hmm.
past that were not created by him, and this may color some perceptions. He was somebody very much part of
Right.
the solution.
Okay, Jack Valero, thank you so much for joining us here on the NewsHour and sharing that with us.
Thank you.